Hello, everybody. I'm Kendra.
And I'm Autumn. And this is Bumper to Bumper. Oh, my goodness.
Wow. How you doing, stranger?
Yeah, I know. It feels like it's been a lot longer than 6 months. We, honest to God, did not intend to be away for this long, but 1 month turned into 2, 3, and here we are 6 months later. So we are sorry. We do apologize.
It's nothing personal, you guys.
No, it's not. Not with you.
No. It's just us.
It's one thing after another. Like the past year's been, of course, just crazy. But Kendra and I are really excited to be back for this web series. We really enjoyed doing these bumper to bumpers, and her and I have missed it. And we have a really cool topic today that we've really enjoyed researching. Yeah, and we're hoping that you guys, it brings back some memories from you guys and some nostalgia. I did post a couple things in the past couple weeks on our topic today, and I did get some interest on there. So it seems like you guys are familiar with and who, I'll say, we're talking about today. But before we get really rolling into the episode, we do want to remind you guys that this is Bumper to Bumper, our YouTube web series, and it is brought to you by the Boyertown Museum of Historic Vehicles. And what Kendra and I like to do on this web series is really just dive into some weird, strange things that we find while we're researching other things. When we fall down the rabbit hole, we've fallen down that many, many times. We've said that on...
This one was a 6-month rabbit hole.
This is...
So... We're ready.
We nearly got lost in the hole, but we've climbed back out, and here we are. But these are just interesting topics, things that randomly pop up when we're researching or pop up into our mind that we just think you guys would also think are cool. So today's topic we actually came up with when we were looking for photos for another event we were doing involving electric vehicles. And these photos are from some of the later days of the Boyertown Auto Body Works. So I guess we'll start there and we'll look at some photos. Of course, we'll be, like every bumper to bumper, flashing some images and things up on the screen for you guys. So let's talk about these 2 photos that we're going to put up here in the beginning. These are cool.
Yes, this is kind of what kicked off everything. So
yes.
You'll see some photos there of, well, he is a Body Works employee, actually. Yeah. So real quick, the Boyertown Auto Body Works was the truck building manufacturer. You know, the museum is in the former Body Works building. Even this show here, we're sitting in a former, kind of like the HR department, like the offices of the Boyertown Auto Body Works. So they built truck bodies here. This is one of those trucks that was built here. Yeah. And the sprightly little character there is one of the Body Works employees. His was Linwood Sands, but he's dressed up as Reddy Kilowatt. So, yeah. Good old Reddy. So, now, we don't really know the full story as to why Linwood dressed up as Reddy Kilowatt. We don't know where he got the Reddy Kilowatt.
Did he lose a bet? I don't know.
Costume? Yeah, I don't know. If you're a relative of Linwood and you know this, and actually, so we had posted these on Facebook, oh my gosh, maybe a year ago?
Probably now.
Maybe, that we posted these, and people loved them.
Yes.
You know, our Facebook followers loved them. I think we actually had someone that knew Linwood or was related to Linwood.
Yes, I think so.
And they said, yeah, that's him. And we don't really know why they did this. I guess it was some kind of marketing PR thing. So the Body Works, you know, they actually did work with the utility companies in the area. Mm-hmm. You know, they did build electric trucks here. That was part of the Batronic division. The utility companies used Batronic trucks. Actually, I think we have a PP&L one. Well, it wasn't a Batronic, but a PP&L electric van that they used in storage. Cool. So the electric companies were interested in electric trucks and cars. That kind of makes sense. So I guess this was really like a marketing thing.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
But Reddy Kilowatt is like a phenomenon, as we will go into. So
yes.
And I think that one photo is actually taken. You can see our building in the background, right?
Yes. Yeah, you can see the building Kendra and I are sitting in. We call it the Hafer building, but it's our office building now, which is kind of neat. And I love the wording on the vehicle because it's the Volkswagen,
Yes.
like VOLTS.
How can I forget that? Yes.
It's so neat. And Kendra and I talk about early marketing all the time, and actually really the whole episode here is really kind of on marketing.
Yeah.
And when you look at these vehicles, like a lot of the vehicles we built, you really know instantly what it is, what you're getting. And I'm always astonished by the art kind of part of the vehicles that we built here. They're really kind of neat. So check out those photos that we threw up. And again, yeah, if you guys know Linwood, if you're related to him, and if you know anything about these photos, please let us know because we would love to find out more information. So, who is Reddy Kilowatt anyway? Well, when Kendra and I saw these photos, we were just so blown away by the adorableness of this little guy, and we just thought he was so neat. So, we kind of decided to research him a little bit more, and geez, we really came up with a lot of information. So, number one, the creators of Reddy Kilowatt really wanted to, it's an advertising gimmick, okay, is what he is. But why are people advertising for electricity? To us today, that might sound silly because obviously, and we were just talking before we actually hit start on the camera about why we don't need to advertise for electricity. You move in somewhere, you got electric, it is what it is. But back in the 1920s, okay, you did need to advertise for electricity. Because who has electricity in the 20s? Well, the cities are pretty much electrified, and so are the wealthy. So if you're wealthy at this point, 99% of the wealthy people in the 1920s have electric at this point, and the cities do as well. It makes sense because it's not exactly cheap to hook up electric. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built in order to electrify a place. And so high population centers are just frankly an easier thing to tackle. But once you leave the city limits and you get out into the rural areas, like where we are now, even in Boyertown at this time, that's really a different story. So rural areas are incredibly underserved by electricity at this point in time in the 1920s. And the electric utility companies want this to change. Obviously, they want money. Okay?
They want more customers.
They want more customers. So that's a big portion of this initially, is just that they want to reach more people to get money. But also, they do want to help rural areas become electrified because that's the way that things are progressing, and it's important at this time to do that. Now, at this time, farmers and people in rural areas were, of course, hesitant about this. They were hesitant to go electric, and it's an expense. There's a lot of new technology involved, and there's some distrust and suspicion surrounding this. It's the usual things we hear.
Yep.
It's not safe. It's more trouble than it's worth. It will spoil us, and things that we hear all the time. It's really just human nature, even today, to be hesitant.
It's the same arguments for anything new.
Exactly.
It really is. It's just.
And if you look at these old
Human
photos.
nature.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at these old photos and you see all these wires hanging, above the city streets and stuff, at the time you could think, oh my gosh,
what is going on?
Is one of those going to fall on my head?
Yeah.
Who knows? So people were very, very hesitant. And there was a company in Alabama called the Alabama Power Company, and they wanted to change this hesitancy. They wanted people to be in love with the idea of electricity. Mm-hmm. So what they did was they tasked one of their marketing people to come up with a way to sway rural residents to become customers of theirs. And the man that they tasked to do this was named Ashton Collins Sr., and it's kind of neat how he was inspired to come up with Reddy Kilowatt. He was outside during a lightning storm, and he felt that the storm was, quote, dancing across the sky. So with this image of the lightning dancing across the sky, he came up with this jaunty little fellow that he named Reddy Kilowatt. And Reddy's torso, legs, and arms are lightning bolts. He has a light bulb nose and wall sockets for ears. He also has really pointy shoes,
Yes.
which is like elfish. He's just a sprite little guy, really, really cute. And what Collins felt was that Reddy would humanize the idea of electricity and make it less scary for these rural potential customers.
Yep.
Now, Collins came up with the idea of Reddy, but he asked an engineer at the Alabama Power Company, whose name is Dan Clinton, to come up with the drawings for Reddy. Now, Kendra, when does Reddy technically make his first appearance?
Yeah, so Reddy makes his big debut on March 14th, 1926. And he's actually in an advertisement that the Alabama Power Company runs in the Birmingham News, the newspaper. And that's really the first time he's seen by the public. Now, later in that year, they say that he's three-dimensional at the Alabama Electrical Exposition.
What does that mean?
Even wrap my head around what that would be. But I'm not sure what three-dimensional means. I don't know if they mean like they had like a cardboard kind of like standy thing, at a booth at this exposition. Did they have someone like Linwood Sands walking around in costume? I really don't know what that means exactly. But that's where he starts. He gets to start in Alabama. And they patent him.
Smart.
Yeah, there are patents for Reddy Kilowatt. There is even a patent for a Reddy Kilowatt font, which is hilarious.
It's awesome.
It's got all the letters of the alphabet there, and you can see Reddy's like peeking out from behind the T or whatever, or he's wrapped. I mean, that was patented. Yeah. That's a patent sheet that we're putting up there, which is funny. So his appearance for the patent, which they don't file till 1933, that's a few years later, it changes a little bit from his debut. He gets a little more refined, I guess. And a woman does that. She's a friend of Collins. Her name is Dorothea Warren. So she kind of like smooths him out a little bit, makes him a little maybe friendlier looking, So he gets patented, and Collins is a very smart person here because he works with the Alabama Power Company to obtain the rights to use Reddy Kilowatt, which is huge, as you're going to see.
Yes.
Collins goes on to create something called Reddy Kilowatt Incorporated, or RKI, we might say as we go through here. And RKI comes up with the Reddy Kilowatt program. So the program essentially is a licensing agreement that they're going to market to utility companies like Alabama Power Company. And a utility company is going to sign up for this program, pay the rights, and they will be able to use Reddy Kilowatt's image in their own advertising and marketing in order to attract customers. So some of the first companies that sign up for this are going to be Philadelphia Electric Company. And we were talking here if that's probably what became Pico, we think.
Almost has to be.
I have my phone out. I'll Google it right now.
Google it someone.
Ohio Edison Company, Pennsylvania Power and Light, which is now PP&L, Duke Power, South Carolina Power Company, and Tennessee Electric Power Company. That is really cool. And actually, I spoke with someone the other day about this, and they thought Reddy Kilowatt was strictly a Pennsylvania thing. He was not. He was all over. We're going to get into that too as we go. But I think he seemed to be very popular in this area.
Awesome.
Of
I didn't know that.
For whatever reason. I don't know. So, these utility companies sign up for this licensing agreement with RKI. Part of the agreement is that they have to, it's almost like a morality clause. Reddy has to remain nice and happy and genial when they advertise him. And as a result, too, the companies get a book called Reddy Kilowatt Art Service Reproduction Proofs Book. So this is a book with images of Reddy doing different types of things in different positions with different expressions and stuff. And all of these they can use in their advertising. Now, the final edition of this book came out in 1998. That's not too long ago, actually.
That's amazing.
1998. By then, there were thousands of images of Reddy Kilowatt in this book that a licensee could use in their own ads.
I just love that so much, that book.
Isn't
if I could
great?
See that book, get my hands on that book.
It needs to be in this. So you got to add it to the stack.
Yes.
You got to go and find it and add it to the stack.
That would be cool.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
It's a neat, it's interesting that he started in Alabama, and maybe this sounds weird, but you know, you don't hear of a lot of things, especially at this time period, starting in that part of the country, things like this. So I think that's really kind of neat.
And they were really motivated to do this because they were very rural back then.
Yes, that's a good point.
And I mean, they're still rural today. They really wanted these, even some of these companies that they talk about, you know, South Carolina Power, Tennessee, these are states that really did need to work at that. Pennsylvania too. I mean,
it's true.
Pennsylvania gets the sometimes unfair, you know, description of, you know, Philly on one side, Pittsburgh and on the other, and then everything in the middle is very rural. I mean, it is rural. Yes. It was really rural back in the 20s even.
Yes.
So yeah, it's interesting.
It certainly is. And even an area like Boyertown, like Kendra's saying, I mean, yeah, it's rural today, but actually it's not that rural. At this time, it would have been very, very rural, and a lot of people wouldn't have had electric. So I just think it's neat where this all started. And to Kendra's point about the reach of Reddy, he was international too.
Yeah.
Collins received trademarks in Canada, Argentina, Great Britain, and Mexico, all in the 30s, throughout the 1930s. And in fact, one of the places that still has the rights to his trademark is a company called Barbados Light and Power Company Limited. And we would encourage you, go on YouTube and search for something called Electricity and You. And I did do this. This is cool. You'll find a little cartoon short, and it was made in 2013, and it's about electricity, and it's hosted by good old Reddy. Really, really cool. It's a really cute little video. And speaking of film and video, he was kind of famous. He made some on-screen appearances, didn't he?
Yeah, so he's Reddy Kilowatt. Roll out the red carpet for good old Reddy here, because he kind of becomes a little film star in his own right. So this Ashton Collins guy is on the ball here. So in 1945, he starts working with Walter Lantz. Now, that name might not be familiar to you, but I assure you, you know some of his work. He is probably most famous for he's an animator, his work on Woody Woodpecker. So he takes the Reddy Kilowatt design to Walter Lantz, and he kind of asks Lantz to, once again, kind of, you know, spruce this up a little bit. So he does, and they come out with a film in 46 called Ready Made Magic.
So cool.
You could also watch that on YouTube. I put clips on YouTube. It's a copyright thing, but you can go on YouTube and find these things. They're on there. So now Lantz, like I said, he changes his appearance a little bit more. He makes him a little less lanky. In the beginning, he's like really tall and sort of like, he's like an awkward teenager, you know. He's now matured a little bit. But he also gives him like the white gloved hands, kind of like Mickey Mouse, which
is familiar
right away,
to
people will register that. And he also changes his eyes, and you'll see they're a lot more expressive now. He's a little cuter now.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
And this is probably the version of Reddy Kilowatt now that people watching are familiar with. They kind of stuck with this now till the end. And he sings a cute little song in the movie about all the different things that he can power in your home, all the appliances that he can, you know, fire up with his red hot electricity and all this. And he's voiced by a gentleman named Walter Tetley, who, again, you might not recognize the name, but if you watched Mr. Peabody, you know, which was part of the Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends thing, Mr. Peabody the dog, well, he had a boy sidekick named Sherman. Walter Tetley was Sherman, and you can kind of hear Sherman a little bit. It's a little more high pitched, I think, than Sherman, but you can definitely hear the Sherman as he's, you know, like zipping around the kitchen and turning on your dishwasher and God knows what else. So they actually do another film later in 1958. It's called The Mighty Atom, and it does recycle some of the footage from Ready Made Magic. They put that back in. Both of these movies, this is funny too. Both of these movies have accompanying comic books, which cracks me up. Early cross-marketing merchandise people. I mean, this Collins guy was on the stick here.
He really was. I mean, this is just incredible, this story. And, that people, and even before I worked here, like I was trying to think back, did I ever hear of him? And you know what? I had. I couldn't tell you what he was or who he was, but if someone said, hey, have you ever heard of Reddy Kilowatt?
Or showed you a photo, you know.
I would know. So it really, I mean, geez, it started in the 20s and here we are in 2021, 100 years later. And we're talking about him and he's still incredibly relevant. So touche to Collins, as Kendra said.
Yeah.
Now, he becomes super popular, okay? Yep. So by 1957, there are over 200 utility companies all over the world that are licensed to use his image. There's even a lawsuit involving dear old Reddy.
Yes.
Okay, so he hasn't gotten out unscathed.
When you're rich and famous,
these things
are
happen.
After you. That's right.
The National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, or the NRECA, okay, that's a mouthful, comes up with their own little cute character, and his name is Willie Wirehand. Now, Kendra and I do like Willie Wirehand. We looked into him a little bit ourselves. We'll pop a picture of him up there because he's cool. You can see the similarities there between him and Reddy. And Wirehand was supposed to be a play on hired hand. Which of course are people that farmers really relied on at this time. So the NRECA, thought this would be a good marketing piece because of course they're mainly focused on getting electric to farmers in rural areas. So check out Willie. He's kind of neat too. Collins does sue them for trademark infringement, but that is eventually dismissed. He does not come out on top in that case. Another fun Reddy Kilowatt appearance is at the 1965 New York World's Fair. And he makes an appearance in an animated film. This is just the creepiest thing I've ever seen, quite frankly. It's an animated
Right, have nightmares tonight,
yes.
people? Yeah.
I won't watch a horror movie tonight, but I'll just watch this movie from 1965 World's Fair because it's terrifying. Basically, it's played in the Tower of Light exhibit, and it has Reddy, and it also has a very terrifying image of Ben Franklin shaped like a light bulb. Please look this up.
Creepy.
It is very creepy. Get you in the Halloween spirit here because it is just terrifying. But we don't really see much of Reddy. I mean, we're talking about how he's relevant, but we don't see much of him anymore. Why is that?
Yeah, a couple of things are going to kind of work against good old Reddy here. Some of it is, in the late 60s, we start getting, this burgeoning environmental movement and a conservation movement. And then when you get to the 70s, couple that with the fact that the cost of electricity is really rising. So to have this cute little guy running around saying, plug this in, plug that in, do this.
Leave it plugged in all day.
It's starting to look a little like tone deaf as to kind of what's going on a lot in there when you're getting this opposite message of you got to conserve energy for the environment, but also for cost savings. So that's kind of working against him too. I think in general too, there's just a movement away from these like cartoony characters to advertise. I mean, I'm even trying to think of ones now, and even like the ones that were cartoony, you see they make them real realistic. I mean, Mr. Clean is an example.
That's a good example.
They've even made Mr. Clean like a real person or more realistic. So I think there's just a general move away from like the cute little animated things, for better or for worse.
Not everyone likes cartoons.
I do.
We like cartoons, but not everyone likes cartoons, okay?
So I think that's kind of, there's a big reason why he kind of fell off the face of the earth. But, there are a couple of Reddy Kilowatt sightings that we had to post or talk about here besides our own Bodyworks photos that we really liked. One is that famous image. This is not a genial Reddy right here.
I love this one.
I know. This is a famous image of Reddy. He's like holding a knife and he's got like his hand on this kid's shoulder and he's basically telling you like electricity will kill you. And I mean, you see this online sometimes.
Yes.
I've seen it. People don't even know who Reddy Kilowatt is, but they put it up because it is funny.
Yes.
Like it is funny now without context. And it's kind of like a meme almost at this point. But, you know, you have to, I mean, this is probably from the 50s, this image. But you got to remember, electricity in homes is still kind of new to some people. Or it's people now that are having families, but the parents didn't grow up with electricity in their home. This is totally new. So it's basically kind of warning you against sticking things in the wall socket, which don't do.
Don't do that.
Say that and like, oh yeah, this is new. My brother-in-law did that when he was a kid. He stuck a penknife in a wall socket and bad things happened. This is
I believe
a
that.
legit thing. So don't do that, kids at home. But you know, that was the thing to do. Have this little cartoon character basically tell you, don't do that, kid. You know, there's so many PSAs. Have been around forever, you know.
True.
They changed their tone when we were kids from the 50s. But, you know, that's the thing. So that one is always just funny to us. And I think when one of the first times we posted the Reddy Kilowatt photo from the body, someone did put that in the comments. That went like right away, that came up because it's so iconic. So, yeah, that's one thing that we just had to stick in there.
It's awesome.
No pun intended. Don't stick a penknife in the socket. So we also found, and looking around, actually one of our volunteers found this, a business card or like a postcard kind of thing, advertising the Woodwards of Pottstown. And there's a little Reddy Kilowatt cartoon on the card. So looking at stuff, I mean, we found Mr. Woodward's obituary. It said he was an electrician. So I guess this was kind of like a business card type thing for him. I'd like to know more about this. This is interesting. It has a 469 number. That's like not the city of Pottstown.
No, it's not.
That's out towards where I'm from, so I'm interested. But it's interesting that the whole family is like listed on there. Like,
yes,
I've not seen that. I'm an electrician,
it's neat.
And here's my wife and kids' names too. It's
If
anyone knows them or like remembers this, let us know because I'd love to know the story behind that.
For sure.
And another cool thing too, if you go out on the Googles or eBay and look for stuff, you can find Reddy Kilowatt recipes. Which
this is just
also I just love. Obviously, Reddy's not there writing the recipes. Again, this was something the power companies put out. You know, you get stuff like that in the mail. You know, a magnet or whatever. This, you get the return address labels. This is marketing.
Absolutely.
This is another form of it. Here's a recipe book from your power company. Here's good old Reddy with his little chef's hat cooking stuff up. And look at all these wonderful recipes you can make thanks to the modern marvels of your electrified kitchen, you know. And this one is cool because it's in French. So we talked about how he was international. This is a Canadian one. So that's why it's in French. I think that's neat. So
it's really cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
I just love the little image. There's so many images of him,
ads
and photos and stuff. You guys have to look, and we'll put as many up as we can in the segment. But please look him up because he's really neat. And I love the phrases that they use, like zip, whiz, bam, and I mean, it's just so punchy.
I love it.
And it's right up Kendra and my alley. We really like this type of stuff. But I do want to talk about one last piece of Reddy Kilowatt history that's in Pennsylvania, and you can physically go and see it.
Yes.
We will be doing this, her and I, sometime.
This is on our bucket list.
Has to be. They're friends of ours, and this Reddy Kilowatt piece is at the York County History Center, and it's in their Agricultural and Industrial Museum. And it's an 18-foot, fully lit, it's a big neon sign. Basically, an 18-foot huge Reddy neon sign in there, and it hung in the York hydroelectric plant for many years until it was removed and restored, and now displayed at the York County History Center. It is really neat. There's even a video you can find online of the process of how this was done, removed, restored, put up in their History Center. It is really, really neat. It is incredible.
Larger than life.
It really is. And I think it's so neat that it's in PA. So like I said, you know, if you guys are in PA, you are interested in this, what Kendra and I have been talking about, go out there and see him in real life. And I'm sure the people at the York History Center can tell you, you know, even more odd things, you know, and off info that Kendra and I didn't get to tell you today. But this is our Reddy Kilowatt story. We hope that it brought back some fond memories and nostalgia for you guys. Maybe you have a Reddy pin, or even better, you have one of those old recipe books, which P.S. please bring in, because Kendra and I would love to see that.
You have to make something out of the book.
And bring that in.
I bet it's some great 50s, like, weird stuff in gelatin
Just gonna
type.
Say, is there Jell-O?
Yes. Do it.
Does it look like cat food as a casserole?
We want to see it.
We want to see it. So bring in your 1950s dish with this Reddy Kilowatt recipe book. Kendra and I may even attempt a recipe ourselves, but it's really neat. So if you guys have any of these little pieces, post them on our Facebook page even. We'd love to see him. So he's a really cool little mascot. We fell in love with him. We hope you guys did too. Ashton Collins was an incredible marketing and advertising guru of his time. Again, we're still talking about him 100 years later. So really neat stuff here. Dive into it yourself. I think you'll be interested. But thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of Bumper to Bumper. We look forward to seeing you guys again.
Hopefully.
Within the next 6 months.
Not 6 months from now.
No. We will be back hopefully next month with another installment with some really cool, interesting topics for you guys. So please stay tuned to our Facebook page. We usually announce our Bumper to Bumper episodes on there. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Check out our website. It's very up to date with you know, all kinds of information and goings on here at the museum. And actually, real quick, since we've last been on, we are updating our facade.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of things are happening here at the museum. So please go on our social platforms and check us out and support us that way. We would really appreciate it. And thanks for watching. And we'll see you guys next time on Bumper to Bumper.
Thank you. Go enjoy those Reddy videos.
Yes, please watch.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Bye.